Well, a New York Times piece over the weekend reported a very unwelcome piece of news in our woke political age. It turns out that across the country, research shows the happiest women aren't the most progressive, liberated ones. Instead, they are married, religious, conservative women. This is the group that reports consistently the highest quality marriages, the happiest lives in America. That's what researchers found. New York Times readers were enraged to hear about this. They unleashed a torrent of bitterness, mostly on Twitter. In so doing, they bolster the report's findings, of course. They're not aware of that. They live in an irony-free world. Tammy Bruce is a radio host and president of Independent Women's Voice. She joins us tonight.
Hey, Tucker.
Tammy, two questions. One, were you surprised by this? And two, why would this make people angry?
Well, you know, happiness is a subjective thing, right? We all have a different perspective, different life experience. And I don't like organized religion, but I'm a woman of faith, and that gives me, it helps me get a perspective separate and beyond myself, which inevitably, when we go beyond ourselves, we end up being a little bit happier in life. So it makes sense to me, and that's a wonderful thing. But I'm not surprised, because really, even when I was on the left, and what we see now is liberalism is a religion. Liberalism is a religion that, of course, relies on people being unhappy and bitter and miserable and jealous. And it makes you unhappy and envious of other people who maybe just don't believe the way you do. But then, of course, you're a blasphemer. And this is what the left has a problem with. If you do not agree with their line or their narrative of what's important, you will be shunned, you will be punished, and those are the things that they complain of other people, right? And they don't see it. They don't realize that their own misery and anger at people being happy, whether it's because of their faith or not, who knows? Maybe it's just that they're comfortable enough with themselves to feel comfortable with God and an entity beyond themselves. They don't know, but the rage that we saw confirms the fact that the left itself is a religion that really has no tolerance for anyone else.
But a religion that feeds on rage and that makes people unhappy, what's the appeal of that religion? It sounds like the dumbest religion ever invented.
Well, look, and this is the problem with who the left has attracted. And I come from the left, and I know why I was attracted to it. I grew up in a difficult scenario, grew up somewhat poor. My mother was not exactly necessarily meant for motherhood to some degree. And it was a difficult childhood. Yep. And you grow up with an expectation that things are not good and that you must fight for yourself and that there's victimhood. And then that becomes, of course, you get elevated based on your victimhood, and that becomes the thing to strive for in a way. And then there's saviors, and other people are going to save you. So it appeals to some degree the damaged. And then what we should do in life, and for me it was therapy, is be able to recognize that damage and move beyond it. Be able to transcend that with the help of the community and your extended family, with whatever the dynamic is. But the left now, and leftist leadership, preys on people who've been injured, and they rely on that damage to move people forward. Cults do that as well. And so you're looking at kind of cultic behavior. And so, yes, it's disappointing and it's sad, but of course it's, I think, quite telling with the state of certainly leftist politics today, and the Democratic Party in particular.
Why do they care how other people live? I mean, I'm always struck by this. I don't think if you were to poll people in the most right-wing county in Alabama on Brooklyn, they don't care what people in Brooklyn are doing. People in Brooklyn deeply care that somewhere in Alabama somebody disagrees with them. Why do they feel the need to control other people like that?
Well, if you've got people, exactly as an example, who are happy, it's a reminder that there are other ways to live, that it's a reminder to other people that you can make different choices, that you can actually look at other ways of living your life, that there are more ways to live and more ways to be, and that's a threat. You can't have people thinking, well, wait a minute, there are other options for me to live. There's other ways for me to find a way out of what my situation is, or a way to find happiness, or to remind people that happiness is possible and that something beyond ourselves can actually enhance and illuminate your life and remind you of the glory of life and to be grateful for it. And the difference between, let's say, the Middle Ages and the modern age, and the fact that happiness is a choice, and that we can choose to look at things in a certain way. And that, of course, is a threat to a side of politics that relies on fear and suspicion, because it's easier to organize you when you're afraid.
That's a really good point. Tammy, great to see you.
Thank you, Tucker. I appreciate it.